prematurely when they were traveling. This is a child who is 3 months old right now, who needs medical care, and who unfortunately, because that child doesn't have citizenship and doesn't have access to Canadian citizenship right now because their parents were born outside the country, can't access medical care because the RAMQ, the healthcare system in Quebec, is refusing to give him his health card because he doesn't have Canadian citizenship. So these are concrete problems for children that we need to fix, Mr. Speaker.
Statements by members. Déclaration de député. The honourable member for Willowdale.
I rise today to address the escalating war between Iran and Israel. For almost 5 decades, the Iranian regime has repressed its own citizens and exported violence beyond its borders. Yet this odious Iranian regime certainly belongs to the dustbin of history. This military confrontation, however, should be constrained by the principles of international law and not be permitted to devolve into wanton destruction. The citizens of Iran are in a particularly precarious spot. They have endured decade upon decade of brutal repression, and the overwhelming majority detest the theocratic regime in Tehran. Yet, they are caught in the crossfires of a war they are neither responsible for and which is not of their making. Neither is the Iranian regime making any provisions for their safety. That is why Canada should call on all parties to this dispute to exercise maximum restraint and also fully embrace the recently announced diplomatic initiative of the Foreign Ministry.
The honourable member for Calgary Heritage.
Nearly a century in a minute. I rise today with a heavy yet grateful heart to honour my Didu, Mrs. Sati Rani Kaur, who passed away peacefully at 94 on January 11th in Kolkata. Predeceased by my Dadu, Mr. S.C. Kaur, she leaves behind 3 daughters, 3 sons-in-law, 3 grandchildren, including me, and 3 great-grandchildren. She was my last surviving grandparent, now with my father's parents, Harindra Lal Majumdar and Shobhya Majumdar. Didu's life was a tapestry woven through 94 years across British India and through decades of partition, liberation, and decolonization. Raised in Bangladesh, she carried the resilience of a land shaped by struggle and independence. A Sanskrit scholar and educator, she taught students, including my father, in Rangoon before the turbulence of Burma's military junta, in Delhi amid India's fight for freedom, and later in Kolkata, a city pulsing with cultural rebirth. Her strong will and Hindu heart defined her. She lived life on her own terms. Om Shanti.
The honourable member for Oakville West.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to recognize one of Oakville's most anticipated community events, the Oakville Family Rib Fest, starting today. This annual celebration is made possible thanks to the tireless efforts of Oakville Lions Club and the Rotary Club of Oakville Trafalgar. Through the dedication of exceptional volunteers, Rib Fest not only brings the community together, but also raises critical funds to support our local charities. I also want to take a moment to recognize the incredible people of Oakville. Their generosity and the community spirit are what makes events like Rib Fest so successful year after year. Additionally, tomorrow, I'm proud to be welcoming 70 bright students from Eastview Public School in my riding of Oakville West. These young leaders are the future of our country, and I look forward to sharing with them the important work we do here on behalf of all Canadians. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I would like to wish everyone a happy Canada Day.
Members may wish to put in their earpieces. The honourable member for Edmonton Northwest.
Nigan naskamaw no tawinan simantu, gia ganigan apistaman o mahwaskayagan.
The interpreter would like to note there is no English interpreter able to interpret from Cree right now.
Egwa wapigiaw natsigasan maskegsi egwa meskuchi waskayagan oche. Anot skinote kaka skumtago ko paskopism nistanaw peaksap kaki me nehiaw gisagaw. National Indigenous Peoples Day is a day of celebration for many things, including leaders who have built bridges between Canadians and First Peoples. I acknowledge 2 teachers of mine, Ogimao Nota Willie Littlechild from Musqueam, a former Conservative Member of Parliament, our International Chief and Truth and Reconciliation Commissioner. and Victor Hull from Anix Capone, a public servant with decades of experience from Indigenous Services Canada. It is often those humble, hardworking public servants that make the difference in the mission towards honoring treaty, Victor being one of them. So from this side of the House, we wish all those trailblazers and all peoples a good Saturday, this Saturday, National Indigenous Peoples Day. Hai hai kinaskum tinawa.
The Honourable Member for La Salle Aymar Verdun. Mr. Speaker, as we approach the end of the parliamentary session and summer sets in, I invite all Canadians to celebrate Verdun's 150th anniversary. Our community has put together an exceptional program of events, including exhibition, workshops, and outdoor concerts featuring artists such as Clay and Friends and the Orchestre Métropolitain. Each event reflects the vibrant spirit of Verdun. I'm also very pleased to announce that our constituency office will be moving in August to Wellington Street, recently voted the coolest street in the world by Time Out magazine, a street that is 100% pedestrian during the summer season. And finally, I'd like to thank Marie-André Mauger, the mayor of Verdun, who is wrapping up 12 years of public service in our community. Her commitment will leave a green, human, and lasting mark on our neighborhood. Happy 150th anniversary to Verdun, and have a happy summer, everyone.
Member for Vaughan Woodbridge.
Mr. Speaker, in 1955, a 22-year-old Italian man from Treviso, Italy, got on a boat and took that courageous trip across the Atlantic Ocean to Canada. He ended up settling in Woodbridge, Ontario. When he arrived, he worked in a mushroom farm, then a steel factory, and then started a business. He lived the Canadian dream. That man was my grandfather, Nico Guglielmin, who passed away last year at the beautiful age of 95. My grandfather truly was the inspiration in my life. He was strong and strict, full of decency and integrity, and he was also kind and understanding. He never lost his temper, no one ever saw him sweat, and he was accomplished and qualified. They say you can judge a person by what people say about them when they're gone. Well, I say Nico Guglielmin was a great man. He was a risk-taker who achieved his dreams, an entrepreneur of incredible accomplishment, and a gentleman who carried himself throughout his life with dignity and honor. So happy Italian Heritage Month to the residents of Vaughan Woodbridge and all Italian Canadians like my grandfather Nico.
Buona giorno.
The Honourable Member for Humber River Black Creek.
Mr. Speaker, our government is taking a strong, targeted action to support the people of Ukraine and to hold Russia accountable for its ongoing war of aggression. In one of our most significant sanctions packages since the invasion began in 2022, we are imposing new sanctions on 77 individuals and 39 entities, restricting trade on nearly 1,000 items, including those linked to chemical weapons, advanced technologies, and critical industrial goods. We're also expanding our crackdown on Russia's shadow fleet by listing over 200 additional vessels, now totaling more than 300, and banning all related services to disrupt Russia's global shipping networks. Sanctions also target key financial institutions, energy companies, and individuals enabling Russia's military and disinformation efforts. Canada stands firmly with the people of Ukraine, as well as all of those in the G7, whose courage and resilience continue to inspire.
The Honourable Member for Chatham-Kent-Leamington.
Mr. Speaker, as members rose and gave their first speeches in this place, we thanked our families and our volunteers for helping us get here. But now as we carry out our legislative agenda, we rely on others to help us carry out our work, but they don't often get the recognition that they deserve. They are our staff. On June the 30th, Sherry Elliott will retire after nearly 20 years of tireless service to our Conservative team. She began her journey in 2004 with Merv Tweed, member for Brandon Souris, and went on to serve the Honourable Vic Taves, the Honourable Rob Nicholson, the Honourable Candice Bergen, as well as Damien Kirk, and I can say his name today, and myself. At last night's gathering, it showed that Sherry has been much more than a staffer. She has been a mentor, a friend, and a trusted guide to many across the Hill. So for 15 years, she also organized Party Under the Stars, a nonpartisan fundraiser supporting veterans, first responders through post-traumatic wellness programs. Sherry, to you, thank you from me and Canada.
The Honourable Member for Drummond. Mr. Speaker, on June 24th, 1975, Gilles Vigneault, the wonderful poet from Natashquan, took advantage of our national holiday, St. John Baptiste Day, to give Quebecers a priceless treasure, a song that would belong to an entire people. And for 50 years, around the dinner table or at a restaurant with family and friends, when it's someone's birthday, we all sing along to Gilles Vigneault's lyrics, adapting them to the name of the person being celebrated. Nowhere else in the world can you hear such an extraordinary song written to celebrate Quebec and which now celebrates every Quebecer. And these lyrics, Mr. Speaker, are beautifully poetic and touch the heart. These lyrics say, "The time we take to say I love you is the only time we have left at the end of our days. The wishes we make, the flowers we sow, each of us reaps within ourselves in the beautiful garden of the time that passes. People of the country, it is your turn to let yourself speak of love."
The Honourable Member for London Centre.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to honour the extraordinary life of Beth Hundy, who passed away at the age of 40 after a courageous battle with cancer this past April. She was wife to Seneca and the stepmother to Percy, cherished daughter of Rick and the late Jane Hundy, sister of Eric and Tim and their wives, Julie and Yvonne, and an aunt who was adored by nieces and nephews. Incredibly bright, she finished her PhD in geography from Western University in 2014. She later served as a professor at Western and was widely respected on campus and throughout Canada, in fact, for the innovations that she made, and specifically in the area of curriculum development. A passionate advocate for fighting climate change, Mr. Speaker, as well. Beth was loved, she was respected, she was admired. May she rest in peace. Thank you very much.
The Honourable Member for London Fanshawe.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to applaud the Westminster Working Group, a dedicated group of neighbours in London Fanshawe who volunteers have, for years, brought our community together to make it even better. This is through hosting family-friendly events, including free winter snowshoe rentals at Westminster Ponds, summer movies and yoga at Westminster Optimist Park, and their Victoria Day weekend fireworks display at Nicholas Wilson Park. The Victoria Day weekend fireworks event has drawn over 1,000 Londoners. Their commitment to creating accessible, family-friendly events fills our city with fun and fosters a neighborly bond. I would like to extend a warm invitation to everyone in this community and beyond throughout London to enjoy these wonderful activities. Thank you again to the Westminster Working Group.
Well done. The Honourable Member for Davenport.
Mr. Speaker, it was a true honour to lead a delegation of Canadian parliamentarians to Dayton, Ohio for the spring session of the NATO Parliamentary Assembly, where parliamentarians from all NATO countries assembled for discussions. Dayton was selected to honour the 30th anniversary of the Dayton Peace Accords, which marked the end of the Bosnian War. Given the changing geopolitical situation and Canada's strong commitment to secure and defend our borders, the vital role that NATO plays cannot be understated. The Dayton session provided an excellent opportunity for NATO parliamentarians to reaffirm our support for Ukraine, that we must support them until they win, and to lend our voice to creating a more resilient NATO. I'm proud that Canada announced increased defence spending to 2% of our GDP by the end of this year. This means an additional $9 billion of investment in our Canadian armed forces. We made a commitment to Canadians to protect our sovereignty and to defend our country, and we will do so both today and for generations to come. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Richmond, Arthabaska. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. She does not yet know the meaning of the word courage, and she doesn't yet know what determination is, but she embodies it. She cannot understand what resilience is, but she lives it. She does not yet know what it means to keep her cool, but she's an example of it. Mr. Speaker, these words now have a name, Claire Bell, who is 3 years of age. Today, all Canadians join me and my colleagues in thanking the hundreds of police officers and volunteers who have done a tremendous job. Claire, I hope you can continue your childhood surrounded by love, safety, and kindness. May you have dreams and may you achieve them, because with your strength, your courage, your determination, and your resilience, at the ripe age of 3, you've already proven that you're an exceptional person. Never forget that, never doubt it, and remember that a whole country was behind you. The Honourable Member for Mont-Saint-Bruno-L'Acadie. Mr. Speaker, today I'd like to talk about an inspiring 11-year-old boy from Mont-Saint-Bruno. His name's Jacob. I'm very pleased to welcome here to Parliament Hill along with his father. The Fête du Vieux Village, held a few weeks ago in Saint-Julie, was Jacob's idea. He wanted to create a space where young people in Saint-Julie could stand out, share their talents, and Jacob worked hard to make this project a reality, demonstrating remarkable leadership. But what touches me the most are his dreams for other young people. As he said, I would like to help young people my age develop their own entrepreneurial projects by offering them guidance. At the Fête du Vieux Village, there's a special space, a table dedicated to them at the public market, allowing them to proudly present and sell their products. They represent the future, a future built on solidarity, creativity, and commitment. I congratulate him wholeheartedly. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for York Centre.
Speaker, in the violent revolution of 1979, the barbaric Ayatollahs took over the prosperous and peaceful nation of Iran. They oppressed the great Persian people for almost 50 years. They murdered countless Jews and recently 58 Canadians. They're the world's largest state sponsor of terror. The difference is simple. If given a chance, Iran would kill 10 million Israelis. But if it were up to Israel, the regime would fall and the new government would not beat women or hang gays. On June 13th, the State of Israel had lawfully defended itself and gave a gift to the world by ensuring that the psychos in Tehran do not get a nuclear weapon. Now is the time for the great Persian people to reclaim their country peacefully. Let the voices of the people rise. Do not be afraid, Persian friends. Let's work and pray for a free Iran.
The Honourable Member for Halifax.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to recognize the Discovery Centre, a pillar of our Halifax community, which has evolved into a flagship Canadian export and global success. The Discovery Centre model, designed and engineered in Halifax, provides an accessible way for youth and community members to experience science and technology up close through immersive Canadian-made exhibits. Under the leadership of Dov Berkovici and his incredible team, this initiative is now scaling globally, with 8 new centres underway in Brazil and South America and a national science centre in Sri Lanka. When complete, these new facilities will generate tens of millions in annual revenue and support new Canadian jobs. This is a clear example of trade diversification through innovation and a bold reminder of the value we create when Canadians lead with impact. Mr. Speaker, the Discovery Centre isn't just exporting exhibits, they're exporting Canadian vision, values, and talent in what is sure to be the first chapter in a much bigger story.
Oral questions. Questions orales. The Honourable Member for Calgary East.
This Prime Minister is continuing the Trudeau tradition of breaking his promises and hiding from accountability. He refuses to table a spring budget while massively increasing government spending and keeping the parliamentary budgeting officer in the dark. And just like Trudeau, this guy can't even get a tax cut right. He promised $800, yet the average Canadian will only save $90 this year. Wow. Not even enough to get a hot chocolate from Tim Hortons weekly. So did this Prime Minister mislead Canadians during the election? Is he misleading them now, or both?
Yeah. The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I recognize the job of Prime Minister comes with many responsibilities. I didn't know addition and division were one of them. The parliamentary budget officer refers to the reductions for all Canadians. The vote that the members opposite supported this government on delivers a tax cut for the 22 million Canadians who pay taxes to drive this country forward.
The honourable member for Calgary East.
Coming from the guy that doesn't even do his own grocery shopping, he's bragging about a $90 tax cut this year when his government's policies raised the cost of groceries $800. He's broken all of his promises, spending, tax cuts, high-priced consultants, and he's all elbows down on the U.S. And while he's begging on his knees in front of Trump, Canadians have high grocery prices, unaffordable homes, and rising crime. But wait! Everyone should be grateful for a $90 tax cut this year. Why doesn't he just reverse his disastrous policies, drop a spring budget, and actually lower taxes for Canadians?
Yeah. The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, once again, a tax cut is a cut for those who pay taxes. 22 million Canadians pay taxes in this country. 86% of that tax cut goes to those in the first two tax brackets. When you have a two-earner family, the maximum tax cut is $840 a year. The members opposite think it's irrelevant. It's relevant for Canadians. It's building this economy. We're glad they voted for it. They just happen to have forgotten now.
Honourable member for Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands, Rideau Lakes.
Last night we learned that the Prime Minister has an entire department of bureaucrats trying to manage his conflicts of interest, but they can't even tell us if the Prime Minister has set up a conflict of interest screen. And so that means that the former chairman of a multi-billion-dollar investment firm is sitting at the cabinet table and could be taking decisions that personally improve his financial standing. He's been Prime Minister for 100 days, but he's still jumping through these ethical loopholes. So why won't the Prime Minister stop hiding the truth from Canadians and come clean? What are your conflicts of interest?
I would just remind the member to direct his question through the chair. The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Unlike member opposite, I'm proud of having experience in the private sector. I'm proud of having experience helping to build this country. I'm proud of having filed all my requirements in advance before required, including a screen for the conflict of interest. I'll wait on these.
The honourable member for Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands, Rideau Lakes.
Well, unlike the Right Honourable Prime Minister, I'm proud to have served our country in the Canadian Armed Forces in uniform. This Prime Minister seems to do whatever he thinks he can get away with. He voted for the Liberals' ban on gas-powered cars, while Brookfield is heavily invested in the EV supply chain. We know that he used offshore tax havens in the Caribbean to avoid paying Canadian taxes. His own department won't even say if he set up conflicts of interest screens. So instead of maligning people who serve the country in uniform, why doesn't he stand up and come clean about his conflicts of interest?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Prime Minister, sorry. Battlefield promotion there. Mr. Speaker, I'm proud as Prime Minister to have made the biggest investment in our military in decades. I am proud to be reversing the decades of cuts of members opposite.
L'honorable député de Louis Saint.
The honourable member for Louis Saint Laurent à Quebec. Mr. Speaker, on the campaign trail, the Prime Minister promised to lower taxes for families. An $825 tax cut was promised, but the PBO has set the record straight. It's not $825. It's over 3 times less than that, $270 per family. Can the Prime Minister tell Canadians he's sorry for misleading them? Mr. Speaker, there's a difference between the average and the maximum. The maximum, yes, it is $840 per year. And that's a reduction for 22 million Canadians. Thank you for your support for that measure. The honourable member for Louis Saint Laurent, Akimak. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister is not confirming the truth. it is that Canadians will, on average, get barely $90. And for a low-income senior, it's only $50, not even $1 a week. When the Prime Minister was running Brookfield, if an executive promised him major savings and then missed the mark, if it was less than expected, does the Prime Minister say, yeah, let's keep going? Or would he tell that executive, why did you mislead me? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, the future of Canadians and of young people and of seniors is a future where we are going to build this great country with legislation to create a single Canadian economy. The honourable member for Belleuil-Chambly. Mr. Speaker, yesterday, 2 colleagues of the Prime Minister on the question of links between tariffs and the C5 bulldozer, they gave us all kinds of crazy answers, sometimes funny, sometimes other. Now, I don't think there's any connection between the tariff war and the time required for C5 to eventually kick in. So I would like the economist and Prime Minister to explain to us what's the link between the tariff crisis and C5. The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, there's a direct link between the C5 and the steel and aluminum industry. Now, there's a crisis because of the trade war with the U.S. C5 will enable us to create demand for steel and aluminum, for Canadian steel and aluminum, in order to build major infrastructure projects in Quebec and all across Canada. The honourable member for Belleuil-Chambly. The government considers it a real feat to have shortened the assessment period to 2 years. And this is before shovels break ground, so before a project can even be started. For example, Trans Mountain, it took 12 years. So these projects take years. The trade war was an urgency. These measures will not help the aluminum industry for 10 or 12 years. In the meantime, what's the solution? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, that's an example. That's why we need to streamline the process. The process takes too long for major projects. And we have confidence that we will produce steel and aluminum, good jobs here in Canada, starting this summer. The honourable member for Belleuil-Chambly. When it comes to managing the trade war and the tariffs, let's remember that after making a whole bunch of compromises around the border, around defense, and there's lots of things that we still don't know the details of, the Prime Minister's strategy was supposed to, before the G7, have a deal with Donald Trump because it was urgent. What he's presenting now is bills that have a lot more to do with oil than aluminum. And is the Prime Minister admitting that his strategy was a failure? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, now, trade between Canada and the U.S. is over 90% of our exports, and they're tariff-free. That's a success. We are the only country in the world with that amount of success in our trade with the U.S. But we're not satisfied. We're not going to stop there. We have to find new markets. We have to make arrangements, fair arrangements with the Americans for steel, aluminum, and auto.
Honourable member for Fort McMurray, Cold Lake.
Mr. Speaker, we know the Prime Minister doesn't buy his own groceries, but most families do. And what they're seeing at the grocery store is ever-increasing food prices. According to Canada's fiscal watchdog, the Liberals' newest broken promise is on their tax cut, with the average Canadian saving only $90 this year, well below the $825 promised. This isn't even enough for a week's groceries. Did the Prime Minister mislead Canadians during the election? Is he misleading them now, or both?
The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Families.
Mr. Speaker, it's a little bit rich for the opposition to be talking about leaders who don't buy groceries while they have a leader who's in subsidized housing, not buying groceries. However, I will say, Mr. Speaker, that this government is laser focused on making sure that Canadians have what they need. As we know, actually, poverty rates have been going down since 2015, and that's because of our investment in Canadians through programs like dental care, affordable child care, and the Canada Child Benefit. Mr. Speaker, we will build the strongest economy in the G7.
The Honourable Member for Fort McMurray Cold Lake.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister is a broken record of broken promises, and the Prime Minister said, "Judge me by the price at the grocery store," and that he's the man with the plan. Well, he's failing. Just since the start of this year, beef up 34%, oranges up 26%, apples up 18%, and baby formula up 9%. So this is making it harder for families trying to put nutritious food on the table. Will the Prime Minister do the right thing and table a budget that actually cuts taxes and reverse his inflationary policies?
Wow. The Honourable Secretary of State for the Canada Revenue Agency.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this government was just elected by Canadians to deliver. We are cutting taxes for 22 million Canadians. We are permanently cutting the carbon tax. We are cutting taxes for first-time homebuyers. Mr. Speaker, our focus is on building the strongest economy in the G7. I ask the party and the members' offices to join us. Get on board. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Carlton Trail, Eagle Creek.
Well, old habits die hard, Mr. Speaker. The Prime Minister promised to cut consulting fees, but is now raising them by 37% to a record-smashing $26 billion this year. That's $1,400 for every Canadian household. And he's doing it, knowing that Canadians have not received value for money from these Liberal insiders. Why is this Prime Minister breaking his promise and increasing spending on consultants?
The Honourable Minister of Government Transformation.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And we are reducing the use of external consultants while making sure that our public service has the tools and the expertise to deliver on the essential missions it has for Canadians. And I'm very proud to have been elected on a mandate to make government more efficient so that we can invest more in defence, invest more in innovation, invest more in the supports that Canadians need. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Member for Carlton Trail, Eagle Creek.
More broken promises with this Prime Minister. Broken promises on spending, tax cuts, defence, on elbows up with the U.S., and now on consultants. While offering Canadians a meagre $90 tax cut this year, he's not getting the money back from GC Strategies and is paying yet another consultant to update websites for an undisclosed fee. Wow. Billions for consultants, peanuts for Canadians. Why is this Prime Minister giving consultants so much and Canadians so little?
The Honourable Minister of National Defence.
This week, the Prime Minister announced a $9.3 billion investment in Canada's defence, which means we will achieve NATO's 2% target this fiscal year. This is not only an investment in our armed forces, but also an investment in good-paying jobs. The member knows this, in Canadian innovation and in economic growth. Our generational investment is strengthening Canada's role as a strong, reliable international partner in NATO, while rebuilding and rearming our terrific Canadian armed forces right here at home.
The Honourable Member for Newmarket Aurora.
Even the government's own fiscal watchdog says he's in the dark on this government's financial plans. He wouldn't even comment on whether the finances are sustainable. in the dark on how they're going to pay for nearly $500 billion. It's not enough to say, oh, we have a plan, and not know how you're going to pay for it. Perhaps they don't want their broken promises and ballooning deficits to come to light. There is no private sector discipline here, only secrecy, broken promises, and no budget. What exactly are they afraid Canadians will find in the numbers?
The Honourable Secretary of State for the Canada Revenue Agency.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, last time I checked, I think we were elected on a bold agenda to change, to cut taxes, to fight against illegal tariffs, to bring this country together and build one strong economy. But, Mr. Speaker, the rhetoric I hear across, it's the same old politics the former member Pierre Poilievre of the Conservatives peddled for 2 decades. In the ballot box, just like business, if you don't deliver after 2 decades, you lose your job. He lost his job, Mr. Speaker. We have our jobs. We are elected. We are here to build the strongest, most resilient.
The Honourable Member for Côte-du-Sud, Rivière-du-Loup, Kataskamik-Témiscouata. Mr. Speaker, the Liberals promised Canadians tax cuts of $825 a year. The PBO confirmed this was yet another broken promise. The average Canadian will save just $90 this year, $7 a month. And for low-income seniors, it's even worse, just $50 a year or $4 a month. It's not even enough for a cup of coffee. Did the Prime Minister mislead Canadians during the election campaign? Is he still misleading them today, or is it both? The Honourable Minister of Government Transformation. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. It's fascinating to hear that question coming from a Conservative who voted against the Canada Child Benefit, who voted against dental care, who voted against thousands of daycare spots for Quebecers. Now we have this tax cut that's important for 22 million Canadians. I'm very proud of it. The Honourable Member for Côte-du-Sud, Rivière-du-Loup, Kataskamik, Témiscouata. Mr. Speaker, the Liberal Prime Minister continues to break promises on taxes, spending, consultants, our relations with the U.S., and so on and so forth. Meanwhile, Canadians are paying more and more at the grocery store. The price of beef has gone up 34%, oranges 26%, apples 18%, and even baby formula is almost 10% more. Enough with the big talk that ends in broken promises. Will the Prime Minister finally table a real budget, cut taxes, and reverse his inflationary policies? The Honourable Minister of Government Transformation. Mr. Speaker, this is the first bill we've passed. It cuts taxes for 22 million Canadians. It will have a direct impact for millions of Canadians all across the country with an $825 tax cut for families. We're very proud of this. This is exactly why we were elected, and that's precisely what we're delivering. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Honourable Member for Pierre Boucher, Les Patriotes Verchères. Mr. Speaker, did you know who's happy about C5 apart from the Conservatives and the oil patch? Brookfield. The former firm of the Prime Minister is benefiting. They have a company that owns a nuclear reactor. They also own natural gas processing plants. C5 is helpful there too. They also own pipelines and oil sands. C5 is there for that too. And C5 is there. The Liberals are using closure in order to please Brookfield shareholders, including the Prime Minister himself. The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, I'll tell you who's proud of C5. It's aluminum workers in Quebec who elected more than 44 Quebec Liberal MPs. It's steel workers, too, in Ontario who are affected by this trade war with the U.S. So instead of pointing at us, the Bloc should be honest and help us so that we can come up with a solution to this trade war. The Honourable Member for Pierre Boucher, Les Patriotes Verchères. The minister says that she's protecting workers, but C5 doesn't do that. No one would be asking these questions if the Prime Minister didn't have this involvement with Brookfield. The Prime Minister himself stands to gain from C5. This bill should be studied in depth. The Prime Minister should be among the first who support proper committee study of this. The Prime Minister should be the first person fighting any appearance of conflict of interest. Will he stand up and do that? The Honourable Government House Leader. I understand why the Bloc doesn't want to build a single strong Canadian economy, but I have more of a hard time understanding why the Bloc is opposed to major projects that Quebecers have dreamt of, like hydroelectricity, like infrastructure, like uniting this country to create job opportunities. Instead of insulting, baseless insults, they should get on board and build an economy together to give Quebecers opportunities.
Member for Regina Louvain.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Canada's fiscal watchdog confirms another broken Liberal promise, this time on their tax cut. On the campaign trail, this Prime Minister promised Canadians an $800 income tax cut. But the Parliamentary Budget Officer just confirmed the average Canadian will save $15 a month, and low-income seniors will only save $10 a month, which won't buy a gallon of milk from the Lumsden Co-op. My question is, why did the Prime Minister mislead Canadians in the last election?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, that Member of Parliament, and we thank him for it, and his entire caucus colleagues voted for the exact tax cut that we committed to Canadians by July 1st, so that on July 1st, in every pay stub in Canada, everyone who pays income tax will have a reduction from 15% to 14%. In the first tax bracket, that will put up to $840 in the pockets of Canadian families. Happy Canada Day. We are delivering for Canadians.
The Honourable Member for Regina Louvain.
Well, sad but true, Canadians are getting used to them being misled by that Liberal in particular, Mr. Speaker. On to another Liberal failure. A damning new report from the Liberals' own housing agency has declared the death of housing affordability in our country. They said Canada needs to double housing construction to restore affordability, but the Liberals' record is dismal. Housing starts in Vancouver, down 10%. Toronto, down 58%. Guelph, down 78%. Hamilton, down 50%. London, down 72%. Simple question, when will this housing minister stop buying investment properties and stop building homes for Canadians?
The Honourable Minister of Housing.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'll caution the member opposite. He's leaving out all of the Canadian communities that are increasing their housing starts right now.
That's true.
That's right. Housing starts across Canada are near record levels.
That's right.
That's good news to celebrate, but it's just a start for us. Mr. Speaker, Canadians elected the party that's running to double housing construction in Canada. Right. We hope you'll support us on that.
Yeah, they should.
A reminder to direct his comments, the Minister direct his comments through the chair. The Honourable Member for Riding Mountain.
Mr. Speaker, a damning report by the government's own housing agency revealed Canada needs to double housing construction in 10 years to restore affordability. In the last 10 years, housing starts are down over 10% in Vancouver, down 50% in Hamilton, down over 58% in Toronto, and down a whopping 78% in Guelph. Wow. This government's record on building bureaucracy instead of homes has failed young Canadians. When will the Liberals admit they've killed the dream of home ownership in Canada?
The Honourable Minister of Housing.
Mr. Speaker, we are laser focused on doubling housing construction across Canada. And I'm encouraged to hear the members opposite newfound concerns about housing construction and affordability. Yeah. Particularly given they voted against every significant housing program in the last few decades. Yeah. Mr. Speaker, our hope now is that they will support us to double construction and vote for affordable housing in Canada.
Excellent.
The Honourable Member for Portneuf-Jacques-Cartier. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We're coming out of an election campaign where the Liberals were promising the moon to get elected, but their hypocrisy is catching up with them. They were going around with a commitment to give $800 back to Canadians. Today we're learning from the Parliamentary Budget Officer the truth. honest citizens have been had. Instead of the $800 promised by the Liberals, are going to get $90 a year. This Prime Minister misled Canadians. Why did he do that? The Honourable Government House Leader. Mr. Speaker, well, it's getting ridiculous over there because the member knows very well, or at least he voted for a bill that is going to be lowering taxes for all Canadians, for the 22 million people who, after July 1st, are going to get a tax cut. They're going to see in their paycheck a reduction in the tax paid in the 15% to 40% bracket. And that is going to save them up to $840 for a Canadian family. That's what we committed to do, and that's what we've done. The Honourable Member for Portneuf-Jacques-Cartier. Well, I have something to say to my colleague. We, the Conservatives, like Canadians, we were had. They lied, Mr. Speaker. So I would invite, Mr. Speaker, this Liberal government. We're getting close to the line here, and I know that the Honourable Member is a good debater. He doesn't need to go over that line, so he can please continue. Mr. Speaker, please allow me to say that the Liberals did not tell the truth. Mr. Speaker, this Liberal government said one thing during the election, and now they're doing something completely different. Already, after just 2 months, the Liberals have broken their promise to cut spending, to cut taxes, their promises on consultants, on defense. They've broken their relationship with the United States. These are facts, and even the Parliamentary Budget Officer says that the Honourable Minister of Government Transformation. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's incredible, that question, when we know that 2 months ago, when they had their opportunity to present a plan to Canadians, when they presented their so-called costed platform, there was one number that was criticized by, well, there were 17 pictures of their leader in that so-called costed plan. That was the only real number in that plan. And our plan is going to have a positive impact in his riding, in my riding, everywhere in Quebec, everywhere in the country.
Mr. Speaker, the world is becoming an increasingly dangerous and uncertain place. From rising geopolitical tension and economic instability to the impacts of climate change and conflict, yet Canadians can be confident that their government is putting their safety, security, and prosperity first by working closely with our allies and defending the values that matters to us. Can the Minister of Foreign Affairs update the House on Canada's engagement at the G7 and how we are working with partners to build a more secure and stable world?
Great question.
Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Canada has just concluded hosting an extremely successful G7 summit in Alberta at Kananaskis. The world is becoming more unpredictable, and the world needs Canada's leadership, Mr. Speaker. The Prime Minister and his colleagues signed joint statements on critical minerals, on energy security, on transnational crime, Mr. Speaker. The world needs more Canada. Canada's ready to lead. Vive le Canada!
The Honourable Member for Caribou Prince George.
The Liberals' catch-and-release policies are so bad that mayors and city councillors are preemptively writing letters to Crown Council begging them to keep the bad guys in jail. Mayor Rather of Williams Lake recently wrote, "We vehemently oppose Jacob Funk's release. The actions of this individual have put our residents and property at significant risk. When Jacob Funk is in jail, the crime rate goes down. When he is out, the crime rate goes up. Why does this Prime Minister keep putting the rights of criminals ahead of Canadians?"
The Honourable Secretary of State for Combating Crime.
Mr. Speaker, we're making it tougher for violent criminals to get out on bail, imposing stricter sentences for repeat offenders. But let me be clear, there is nothing in the law stopping judges and JPs from denying bail. The current law is that people who are a risk to public safety or a flight risk should not be given bail. So, Mr. Speaker, what's really going on here? Reports are saying that judges are making decisions because the provinces aren't providing the space needed to hold criminals. It's time for the provinces to join us and step up.
The Honourable Member for Caribou Prince George.
It's is always somebody else's fault 37 times. Jacob Funk has been arrested 37 times, and 37 times he's been released. Over 9 times in the past month. April 27th, assault with a weapon and uttering threats. May 27th, break and enter and disguising face. June 8th, assaulting a peace officer, resisting arrest and breach of release. June 12th, assault and uttering death threats. Wow. He's wreaking havoc on the citizens of Williams Lake, and this Prime Minister is letting him. When will he repeal his soft on crime policies and finally put victims' rights ahead of criminals?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Combating Crime.
Mr. Speaker, we are on the same page. Repeat violent offenders should not be released. So let me be clear again. There is nothing stopping judges and JPs from denying bail. The current law states that people who are a risk to public safety or a flight risk should not be given bail. So, Mr. Speaker, I think it's time for the provinces to step up. What is happening? Make sure the Crown prosecutors are well funded. Make sure there's space to hold these criminals. We're going to do our part. The provinces should do theirs.
Honourable member for Bruce Grey Owen Sound.
Mr. Speaker, crime has been rising in my riding since the Liberals formed government, and justice is too often delayed for victims. According to the latest Owen Sound Police Services annual report, violent crimes are up 14.6%. My communities are worried. To make matters worse, more than 10% of the cases are now exceeding the Jordan limit, delaying justice further. When will this Liberal government reverse its soft-on-crime legislation and adopt a common-sense plan to keep violent offenders behind bars and ensure victims and their families get the justice they deserve?
The Honourable Minister of Justice.
Mr. Speaker, I thank my honourable colleague for his question, and I have good news to report. Canadians elected a new Liberal government in part on the promise to advance reforms that will stiffen bail proceedings and adopt more serious sentences for violent repeat offenders. In addition to the changes to the criminal code that the members should expect to see later this calendar year, we're making investments to give law enforcement the tools that they need to prevent crimes in the first place. I am willing to work with members on all sides of the aisle to advance these important reforms to help keep communities safe.
The Honourable Member for Bruce Grey Owen Sound.
This old cabinet minister hasn't answered the question, Mr. Speaker. Premiers, police organizations, and victims are pleading for tougher penalties for repeat violent offenders. Just last week, West Grey Police rearrested a repeat violent offender for failing to comply with a release order and who was found in possession of fentanyl and prohibited weapons. The PM ran on a platform that included establishing a reverse onus for severe crimes and increasing penalties. Can the minister provide specific timelines as to when the government will implement these changes and reverse their soft-on-crime policies?
The Honourable Minister of Justice.
Speaker, when dangerous people who pose a threat to the public commit serious offences, they should be treated with concomitant sentencing and bail decisions from the courts. We are going to be advancing reforms that we campaigned on in the fall. We intend to specifically change the bail rules as it pertains to home invasions, auto theft, and organized crime. We also will advance new sentences when it comes to violent repeat offenders and, again, those participating in organized crime. I hope rather than just resorting to rhetoric in the House of Commons, they will actually work across partisan lines to advance the kinds of reforms Canadians are calling for so we can help.
The Honourable Member for Cambridge.
Mr. Speaker, it's like we're living in a Liberal rerun of Groundhog Day where the same criminals get arrested, released, and reoffend on a loop. In Cambridge, 2 men wanted on warrants were just busted with weapons and suspected fentanyl, a drug that's killing Canadians every single day. This endless cycle isn't an accident. It's the result of Liberal-made soft-on-crime laws, a revolving door of justice that's a gift to repeat offenders. When will this Liberal government shut the door on their Groundhog Day and finally put violent criminals and drug kingpins behind bars for good?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Combating Crime.
Fentanyl has torn through communities and ripped apart families, Mr. Speaker. We're working to take down fentanyl trade and gangs that profit from it. We've listed 7 cartels as terrorist entities under the criminal code, and I'm working closely with Kevin Brosseau, Canada's fentanyl czar, to put a laser-sharp focus on dismantling these drug networks. We will shut down fentanyl production and put those profiting from it behind bars.
The honourable member for Brandon Souris.
Violent crime continues to spiral out of control under these Liberals, devastating our families and our communities. In Brandon earlier this year, a 67-year-old man was beaten over the head with a baseball bat by a repeat offender out on bail completely unprovoked. Weeks later, a woman was assaulted in an elevator by an individual out on bail facing similar previous charges. These are just two examples of far too many violent assaults by repeat offenders released to wander our streets. So when are these Liberals going to get serious, reject their soft on crime agenda, repeal Bills C5 and 75, and put these criminals in jail, not out on bail?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Combating Crime.
Mr. Speaker, this new government's agenda is to be tough on crime. We're going to make it tougher for violent criminals to get bail, impose stricter sentences for repeat offenders. And when the topic of bail keeps coming up, Mr. Speaker, it is the job of provinces to administer the bail system. Right now, the law states that people who are a risk to public safety or a flight risk should not be given bail. So, Mr. Speaker, the provinces really need to take a look at what is happening in their courtrooms.
The honourable member for Abbotsford South Langley.
Mr. Speaker, extortion is up 357%. Earlier this week, an Abbotsford man was gunned down because of extortion. Following his death, there was another extortion-related shooting in the area. Yesterday, a BC man in the Lower Mainland was shot up, another home was shot up. Thankfully, this time, no one was injured. But every neighborhood is terrified and innocent lives are on the line. Mr. Speaker, the Liberals eliminated mandatory minimums for extortion with a firearm. How many more lives must be taken by extortion before the Liberals put a minimum sentence back on extortion?
The Honourable Minister of Justice.
Mr. Speaker, I remind my honourable colleague that extortion is illegal in Canada, and those who perpetrate it should be apprehended and punished to the full extent of the law. Specifically, Mr. Speaker, if the honourable member examines the section of the Criminal Code, he will see that there are mandatory minimums when it comes to certain offences committed with a firearm relating to extortion. Moreover, the maximum penalty is imprisonment for life. The rules reflect the seriousness with which the government takes extortion. We look forward to working with law enforcement to give them the tools they need to investigate and prevent these crimes from taking place in the first instance.
The honourable member for Calgary Skyview.
Mr. Speaker, Canada's crime rate is up. Homicides up 28%. Violent crime is up 50%. And extortion's up 357%. This week, CSIS reported foreign governments are using organized criminal networks to target Canadians. Our own intelligence agency is sounding the alarm, but these Liberals are ignoring it. They voted against Conservative Bill C-381, which was jail, not bail, to repeat offenders. Will this Prime Minister finally take public safety seriously by adopting our Conservative plan to lock up these violent criminals?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Combating Crime.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Foreign interference and transnational repression are serious threats to Canadians and our democratic institutions. Through the Countering Foreign Interference Act, we have the modern tools needed to protect against it.
Hear, hear.
We will train 1,000 new RCMP personnel that will help combat foreign interference and transnational repression. We'll remain vigilant to protect our security, to protect our sovereignty, and to protect our democracy, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Dufferin-Caledon.
I don't know what's worse, the Minister for Crime Reduction blaming the provinces for enforcing their bad bail laws, or the Justice Minister making witty statements like extortion is illegal. Anyone with a 5th grade education or higher knows that. The problem is, Mr. Speaker, extortion is up 357%, and these violent extortionists then get out on bail almost the next day. That's the problem, not that extortion is illegal. Everyone knows that. The real question is this: are they actually going to do something? The minister is saying we'll do something in the fall, so it's a summer of free crime. Canadians need changes now. Will they do it? Yes or no?
The Honourable Secretary, the Honourable Minister of Justice.
Mr. Speaker, the Conservatives talk a big game when it comes from a tough-on-crime agenda, but they failed to point out that one of their members earlier this week put a motion before the Justice Committee that would actually make it easier for those charged with intimate partner violence to be released on bail. We were elected on a campaign commitment to put forward rules that would strengthen the bail system, including specifically offenses tied to auto theft, to home invasion, human trafficking, and organized crime, and yes, to stiffen sentences for violent repeat offenders. If we could take the politics out of this issue, we would be happy to work together to advance public safety of this country. That's what Canadians demand. With or without the Conservatives, the Liberal government will deliver.
The Honourable Member for Annalay-Mercier.
Mr. Speaker, Saturday, June 21st is National Indigenous Peoples Day, a day in which Canadians celebrate the cultures, unique histories, and traditions of Indigenous peoples of Canada. Can the Minister of Crown Indigenous Relations share more on the importance of National Indigenous Peoples Day?
The Honourable Minister of Crown Indigenous Relations.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to thank the member for the question and thank him for his hard work in his riding, Honoré-Mercier. This Saturday, I'm looking forward to celebrating National Indigenous Peoples Day in Yellowknife at the North Slave Métis Alliance's annual Community Fish Fry, which will also showcase entertainment and the vibrant cultures of Indigenous peoples, both locally and nationally. My sincere thanks to the North Slave Métis for hosting and to Heritage Canada for its continued support of community celebrations like this across the country. I encourage all residents and colleagues to take part in the festivities. It's an opportunity to celebrate the rich history, diverse heritage, and enduring strength.
The Honourable Member for Prince Albert.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. At a time when Canada should be expanding energy production, the Liberals are using their anti-energy laws to stop pipeline construction. Companies who've wanted to build haven't because of these laws. For 10 years now, this government has driven away investments and stranded our energy sector. It is time for anti-energy laws like C-69, the shipping ban, and the job-killing industrial carbon tax to go. If the Liberal government really wants to see energy projects built, will they finally do the right thing for Canadians and repeal their anti-energy laws?
The Honourable Minister of Energy.
Mr. Speaker, what this government will do is present the One Canadian Economy Bill to rapidly advance projects of national interest and build one Canadian economy, not 13. The bill will grow our economy and support our sovereignty to ensure we build the strongest economy in the G7. I hope our colleagues across the aisle will support us.
The Honourable Member for Leduc.
Mr. Speaker, this week Canada hosted the G7, and one of the people on the Prime Minister's invitation list was the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia currently has a sweetheart deal with Canada, shipping over $2 billion worth of Saudi oil a year to our Canadian East Coast. Alberta oil shipped to the same place would face extremely onerous reporting requirements on upstream and downstream emissions, yet no such requirements exist for Saudi oil. Why?
The Honourable Minister of Energy.
Mr. Speaker, we are going to support our conventional and renewable energy business by getting the One Canadian Canada Act passed. It will grow our conventional economy. It will grow our conventional energy business. It will grow our renewable business. We hope our colleagues across the aisle will get on board.
The Honourable Member for Leduc-Wetaskiwin.
Mr. Speaker, I'll note that the Liberal members seem incapable of using the word pipeline or oil in the House of Commons. Let me keep this simple. It is a fact that the emissions reporting requirement on Saudi oil being sold in Canada is less stringent than for Canadian oil being sold in Canada. Who in this Liberal government wants to stand now to defend this incomprehensible policy?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Rural Development.
We support oil and the development of all energy options across this great country, but we also support the Indigenous community, Mr. Speaker, because we realize as a country we must engage the Indigenous community, for even for them, this is a journey of economic and social justice. The benefits of anything we do, oil or gas or development that engages the Indigenous people, will be long-lasting, Mr. Speaker. We much must reach all the people of our great country, including the Indigenous community, in every corner of our country.
The honourable member for South Shore St. Margaret's.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, last year our government took action. Yes, we took action to strengthen the workers' rights by introducing legislation to ban replacement workers during strikes and lockouts. Mr. Speaker, can the Minister of Jobs and Families update this House on this important step for workers and collective bargaining? Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thanks.
The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Families.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and thank you to the member for South Shore St. Margaret's for this important question. And I've got great news, Mr. Speaker. C-58 comes into force this Friday. Using replacement workers compromises the fundamental right to strike. It can tip the scales, derail good faith bargaining, and heighten tensions in the workplace. And C-58 bans replacement workers, something that the Canadian labour movement has been asking for a long time. Mr. Speaker, this government got it done together with Labour, and we are very happy for this work with Canadian workers.
The honourable member for Pitt Meadows, Maple Ridge.
Mr. Speaker, Canada's #1 export is oil. It's a source of our prosperity and provides for health care, infrastructure, and good-paying jobs. Yet 10 years of Liberal anti-energy laws have kept pipelines from being built and kept us dependent upon the U.S. markets. Laws like C-69, no new pipelines, C-48, the shipping ban, the energy production cap, the industrial carbon tax. Energy companies won't build because of these laws. When will the Liberals finally end their war on Canadian energy and jobs?
Honourable Secretary of State for Rural Development.
Mr. Speaker, the problem with the Conservatives is half of them don't like Polyev, the other half like Polyev, and the other half can't count. The problem, Mr. Speaker, is they ought to look at Canada as a country. We're the third largest.
The honourable member can rewind a little bit if he wants.
Mr. Speaker, Canada is the third largest oil-producing country in the world. That is something that we should be proud of. And back from Saskatchewan, where I come from, we have a phrase, lead, follow, or get out the way. These guys can't lead. They're too arrogant to follow, so at least get off the way.
The honourable member for Vancouver East. The honourable member for Vancouver East.
The Liberal and Conservative coalition joined hands to fast-track Bill C-5 to bypass environmental reviews, ignore provincial jurisdictions, and trample on the constitutional rights of Indigenous peoples. Ontario chiefs are rejecting Bill C-5. UBCIC Chief Stuart Phillip called it a complete betrayal of Canada's commitments under the UN Declaration for the Rights of Indigenous Peoples. The Assembly unanimously condemned this bill and are calling for its immediate withdrawal. Chiefs across the country are saying nothing is off the table if the bill is passed. Will the minister do the right thing and withdraw Bill C-5?
Hear, hear. The Honourable Minister of Crown Indigenous Relations.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We'll be looking for projects that have Indigenous support and, even better, Indigenous equity in the projects. This legislation is about supporting projects that are not only shovel-ready but shovel-worthy. Projects that respect Indigenous knowledge and uphold Aboriginal and treaty rights. This legislation mandates that there must be meaningful consultation and accommodation with Indigenous rights holders during both the process of determining which projects are in the national interest and the development of rigorous conditions for each project. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
member for Winnipeg Centre.
Mr. Speaker, Indigenous rights holders and civil society groups have been clear. Bill C-5 violates constitutional rights, escalates the climate crisis, and endangers workers' health and safety. But the Liberals and Conservatives are teaming up to pass this bill without proper consultations. The AFN, the ITK, and NAN have indicated that it is an ungracious invitation to the Supreme Court. This will stall our economy and the creation of good jobs. Will the Liberal government uphold its constitutional obligations and keep this bill out of the courts?
The Honourable Minister of Crown Indigenous Relations.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. These rights are affirmed by the Constitution, and the duty to consult and accommodate has been set out in a series of Supreme Court of Canada decisions.
That's right.
The One Economy Act, specifically in both the preamble and throughout the body of the legislation, requires the government to consult with Indigenous rights holders. Section 5.7, 7.2, 8.3. Again, we will be consulting with Indigenous right holders. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Parliamentarians, I would like to take the floor to highlight a birthday, a very important birthday for our parliamentary family. On the 23rd of June, it will be the 10 years since the official creation of the Parliamentary Protective Services.
Existence. The Parliamentary Protective Service has anticipated and adapted to emerging and growing threats, while always remaining true to its values of respect, professionalism, integrity, accountability, and leadership. The PPS values are the ones that keep us safe, and for that we are most grateful. For the last 10 years, day after day, these women and men in uniform have been keeping parliamentarians and Parliament safe, and by extension, keeping Canada's democracy strong. With smiles and hellos, they help us start and end each day. Bien sûr, le Parlement du Canada.
Of course, the Parliament of Canada is more than a workplace. It is the very cradle of Canadian democracy that attracts visitors the world over. These visitors are always welcomed by our uniformed colleagues with civility and courteousness, a very Canadian thing to do. A lot of us work here, but it's also the heart of democracy that belongs to all Canadians. As we all know, protecting democracy isn't easy.
To the attention of members, the presence in the gallery of many members of the Parliamentary Protective Service. Thank you for your long service, for your bravery, and for your achievement and commitment to PPS. Merci et félicitations.
Thank you and congratulations for this important birthday. Happy 10th birthday.
Honorable député.
The Honourable Member for Beauharnois, Salaberry, Soulanges, Huntington. Mr. Speaker, if you you'll see that there is unanimous consent for the following motion. That this House recognise the impressive work of the Sûreté du Québec and Ontario Provincial Police in the last few days, following the disappearance of little Claire Bell. That it commends and thanks the hundreds of volunteers, witnesses and groups who offered their support for the search operations and contributed in one way or another to the successful resolution of this case. Is there, colleagues, is there unanimous consent? Granted. Adopted.
Do I have to? Okay. Député
The honourable member for Louis Saint Laurent. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. During question period, we heard about tax cuts. The minister mentioned $840. I would like to be able to table the Parliamentary Budget Office's document where, unfortunately, there doesn't seem to be unanimous consent. And I understand, but there's no unanimous consent.
I believe it's time for the Thursday question. The leader of the official opposition.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And as this is the last Thursday projected before the summer recess, I would like to take this opportunity to thank the House administration who has supported members of Parliament as they resume their duties after the election. There is a lot to do to get so many new members of Parliament sworn in and orientated and ready to go for this session. So I just want to commend the clerk's team and all the procedural staff who are involved in all that. I know there's a lot of moving pieces, and once again they discharged their duties with great proficiency, and we all certainly appreciate that. I'd also like to pay tribute to the Pages, as this is the final week in their program, and they've done excellent work throughout the past few months. They got a little bit more time off this session with the prorogation and the election than other Page cohorts, but they've done exceptional work as well. And